Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into MB12 Weekend, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight, a local business owner shot dead near Montague Beach this morning. Further skepticism about Baha Mar's opening in spring, despite the Prime Minister's assertion. Plans for the second annual Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival have officially begun. Plus, as always, we count down the top quotes in news this week. I'm Paige McCartney. We've got those stories and more straight ahead on MB12 Weekend. Welcome once again to MB12. Just 3 days into the new year, and already 3 people have died as a result of violence. In the latest killing, police say local business owner Michael D'Angelo Bethel, his wife, and several others were ambushed near Montague Beach by gunmen this morning. Head of the Central Detective Unit, Chief Superintendent Paul Roll, said Bethel was shot along with 3 others at around 4 this morning, not too long after his business closed.
What we understand is that these individuals were driving in their Dodge Caravan vehicle, and they stopped at the traffic light at Village Road and East Bay Street, just in the front of the Montague Beach. And persons pulled up alongside them in a vehicle and exited, began discharging shots into the vehicle. 4 of the occupants in the vehicle were shot as the driver drove off in an effort to get away from these individuals and drove to Princess Margaret Hospital, where he later succumbed to his injuries. We know that the driver, he is a local businessman and had just recently closed his establishment. So we appeal to anybody who would have any information on this to latest homicide and shooting to reach out to us and provide that information to us.
Police also believe there was an eyewitness to the crime early this morning. They're appealing for him to reach out to the Central Detective Unit to aid in the investigation.
There was also a young man. We asked him to come and see us sometime today, whom we believe saw what took place and what was obviously in fear. He left the area before the police arrived. So if he would give us a call, then he can help us with this investigation.
Bethel, a father of 4, owned the popular restaurant Snapper Seafood Shack near the junction of Fox Hill Road and Prince Charles Drive. His wife was also shot. We understand she was in surgery this afternoon. We were unsure of her condition up to airtime, but in an earlier report, police said she was stable. 2 other male passengers in the car were also shot, police said, but we understand their wounds were not life-threatening. You can check tomorrow's newscast for more details on this story. And as we said, it's the 3rd life lost to violence since the new year. However, the murder count for 2016 stands at 2 so far. That's because 1 man who died over the weekend was stabbed during an incident on Abaco on December 22nd. His murder will factor into the 2015 count, which now stands at 149. Well, police are also investigating the reported rape of a female tourist at around 5 yesterday afternoon at Cabbage Beach. Police say they have a 26-year-old local man in custody in connection with that investigation. Police are also investigating the stabbing of a man in Nassau Village and several armed robberies in New Providence overnight. While taking a moment to reflect on 2015, President of the Bahamas Christian Council, Reverend Dr. Ranford Patterson, says he understands the country's issues like crime are not solely the government's fault. He's calling on the church to wake up and band together to get the country right back on track.
We have, like I think I've said it on numerous occasions, we have the air of most of the people in this country every week. Saturday, Sunday. We have the air of the people every week. I believe that the church has the power right now to change any social ills that we have if we come together. We can't do it individually. It must be a collective effort on our part. all of us put aside our denominational differences.
Not to be left out of the equation, Patterson says Bahamians and society at large have to wake up and take charge of their own country, adding that Bahamians are too passive. He said if residents truly want to see change, they must be prepared to take radical measures.
We need more Bahamians to wake up and realize that they have a stake in this. The church, civil society, the government, the opposition, all of us, we have a stake in the direction in which our country is going right now. And if we are not careful, we won't have a country. I believe the only way we're going to see change in this country is when 10, 15, 20,000 of us close Bay Street down. Then I believe everyone will listen to us, including the criminals.
And in other news, although Prime Minister Perry Christie is anticipating a March opening for the convention center at Baha Mar, President of the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation, Edison Sumner, said he's very skeptical that's actually going to happen. Sumner said although he's just a bystander, much like everyone else watching the project, in his opinion, nothing will happen in March, and he doesn't believe Baha Mar will open until the end of 2016 at the earliest. Here's Dana Smith.
Although 2015 ended without any concrete resolution to the Baha Mar saga, Christie remains optimistic, predicting the convention center will be open for an IDB conference next month. But Sumner said although Christie is no doubt speaking from a place of knowledge, he doubts there will be anything opening at Baha Mar anytime soon.
The Prime Minister, of course, has insight into information that the rest of us don't have. So I'm sure that he was speaking from a place of knowledge and information that we don't have. But as a bystander, and the Chamber has become a bystander in this, in that we're only observing what we see from what we're hearing in the media as well, because we have not had, in recent times, the privilege of having any direct information. But I am very skeptical that we're going to see a March opening for anything at Baha Mar, right? My projection for Baha Mar is that when it opens, I can't see it happening before the end of 2016 at the earliest.
Christie told reporters last weekend he's expecting a major move on Baha Mar that could see the troubled resort completed early in the new year. He said government has a commitment from stakeholders to ensure the convention center will be completed, to ensure an Inter-American Development Bank conference will be held there in March. Well, Sumner said it would be great if Baha Mar opened, if only just partially, but evidence suggests that probably won't happen.
Evidence that we've seen is not telling us that we're going to see anything happening in March. Now, if it happens, and if the Prime Minister's pronouncements are going to be followed through, then we think that'll be fantastic, because the place needs to open. People need to get back to work who have been employed by that property. We would love to see that happen. But so far, the evidence is not showing us that a March opening for anything at Baha Mar is possible.
Pointing to the continued uncertainty surrounding the resort, Sumner said there are just too many loose ends. But he added he'd love to be corrected, and he'd certainly applaud those involved in getting the project opened if it indeed happens next month.
There are just too many loose ends, as we see it at Baha Mar, too many irons in the fire, so to speak. And unless there's a lot happening in the background that's not being brought to the public domain, based on what we do know, we cannot see that there's going to be anything happening by March of next year. But I'd love to be corrected by anybody on this, right? Because I think if they can get it open, by then and anything is happening, I think that would be great, and I'll be the first in line to congratulate them for getting it done.
Reporting for NB12 Weekend, I'm Dana Smith.
Well, Youth, Sports and Culture Minister Dr. Danny Johnson says marketing and planning are now underway for this year's Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival. He told NB12 in a recent interview that organizers are now working around the clock to ensure many of the mistakes made during plans for last year's event don't happen again. Here's Kyle Joaquin.
Done. Commission's ready to roll.
Youth, Sports and Culture Minister Dr. Danny Johnson says the Festival Commission, the body tasked with the intricate planning details for Junkanoo Carnival, has finally gotten its charge from the government. Just last month, Festival Commission Chairman Paul Major confirmed to NB12 that the commission had not yet had its first official meeting. According to Johnson, Many of the bigger decisions pertaining to Carnival have been made, and Carnival activity should begin this month.
There's no letting up on my part, and so we will keep cultural activity going. We'll keep Bahamians at the forefront of it. People are coming here to see what it is we have. We have a lot more to offer. The song competition you'll see that rise again in January. We saw 181 songs last year. I mean, I still got favorites that didn't make it. I wish some of them come back. Please come back. But there are hundreds more people who now are entering songs. It's the first time in Bahamian history that we have hundreds of songs being written, recorded, and put on the stage.
A Carnival band launch where mass bands will display some of their costumes will be held later this month. Major problems for the inaugural Junkanoo Carnival last year were timing, late planning, and marketing. There was also the problem with finding a headliner for the big Music Masters concert. The event ended up going $4 million over budget. Fewer tourists and more locals had participated than expected. But Johnson said their main goal is to have more tourists be a part this year.
The goal that we have really established now, and I want people to understand it clearly, is that we want year-round cultural activity. Okay, we're in the business of tourism, and the business of tourism is fueled by sports and entertainment. I'm shocked that we've never had this kind of concentration in the past, but we have it now, and there's no letting up on my part, and so we will keep cultural activity going. We'll keep Bahamians at the forefront of it. People are coming here to see what it is we have.
The culture minister said the toughest part about planning for Junkanoo Carnival was getting started, but the more they do, he added, the easier it will be.
And once you get started, and young people who I represent, I'm Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture. So the things I do is from listening to the young people I talk to every day, the 75,000 youth we hear from every month in Nassau and around the Bahamas. And they are talking about more sporting activity, more cultural activity, more platforms, and they are interested in international scope. They are in the globalized arena.
Now, this year's Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival Festival begins on May 5th and continues through May 7th. Reporting for NB12 Weekend, I'm Kyle Joaquin.